The heck of a shot there.
Welcome to the MaSter Debaters, everybody. The show where we solve pop culture's problems, one outrage at a time. I'm Abe, co-host of the Movies and Stuff show, which can be seen live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on this channel. And joining me are three other guys that are skipping the Survivor season finale to be here.
Hold on. It's the West Coast. I'm on the West Coast. I'm going to watch it after this. I would never miss an episode of Survivor.
Okay,
That show's still on? I thought it was canceled.
all right, pipe down. I'm the host. I want to introduce you guys. First up, it's the man whose casting couch stories consist of people sitting around drinking coffee and talking Robert Altman. How fun. It's the host of Vegetable Lasagna and The Woody Allen Show, filmmaker, author, and currently going through a water detox, Tom.
And I just broke my bean grinder. I was making coffee before the show, and it's gone now. So if I'm a little bit more sad than usual, you know why now.
Yeah, you do seem a little more morose.
I need my beans. I don't get them ground, so it's a tough night for me, Abe.
I got you. Second up, it's a new face around these parts. He's forgotten more about Godzilla than I think any of us will ever know. When he sees bullshit, he calls it out. He might be a Ronin, but I'll call him Pedro. What's up, man?
Yo. Now y'all know how I look like.
There you go. And finally, it's another new face. He either makes you love or hate the Patriots more than you already do. He's a showrunner, a podcast host, a thorn in the side of socialists. It's the man himself, Justin.
And I just want to reiterate that I will not be missing the Survivor finale. This is how bad I am. Last night I went up to Universal with my buddy to see where they usually hang out in the hotel. But they moved hotels, so I missed seeing all the players. But, it happens.
Okay, we've got that. Probst will not hold it against you. All right, guys, as you know, this is a debate show. And because Ayn Rand is thrown around all the time, every time a superhero film is coming out, she's really going to be our primary focus, Ayn Rand and geek culture. So I'm going to throw out three questions for you. I'm going to give you 60 seconds to answer. If you don't make your point within 60 seconds, I'm cutting you off. You guys ready?
Sure.
Yep.
Again with the passion, the energy you guys bring, it just overwhelms me. It just really touches me. All right, topic one. Devin Faraci. Is it Faraci? I can't remember how we said his name last.
I say Faraci.
Faraci. Devin Faraci's article, Of Course Zack Snyder Wants to Adapt an Ayn Rand Novel, opines that Snyder's enthusiasm for Rand's novel, The Fountainhead, is a confirmation of an objectivist slant throughout his filmography. Is this a fair assessment, Tom?
Well, I think if we're saying filmography in general, I would say no. I think if you look at some isolated examples, like maybe Watchmen, you can make a case that there's a fair amount of objectivism going on in Watchmen. But I think when you look at these superhero movies, you're not seeing that. I don't think you're seeing it in the Superman stuff and even 300, especially Batman versus Superman, the one that he's talking about. I think when we're especially talking under this lens that Bruce Wayne and Superman in these movies are objectivist and that they're doing it for themselves, they're not doing anything about selflessness, that's silly. To me, if there's any arc in Batman versus Superman, they both learned to be more selfless than they started out with. So it seems like it's very much going against this idea of selfishness as a virtue. And I think you see that repeatedly throughout Snyder's movies, not even just in the one that we're talking about tonight. Like 300, can you say that one doesn't have that? Or I didn't see that Owl movie, but they're probably nice to each other, right? I mean, I think that Snyder is he's supporting it for other reasons. He's not absolutely objectivist in his filmography.
All right, there we go. Justin, over to you.
Snyder's what I like to call objectivist adjacent. I would have to have approval from him. I would have to have him say I am objectivist to confirm it. But the objectivist slant in his filmography is something I've been tracking for years. I mean, Frank Miller is an objectivist. 300 is without a doubt objectivist. It's about men dying for their principles. You look at Sucker Punch, it's about the power of the mind to overcome and using your mind to combat the irrationality in the world. Watchmen, he turned on its head and made that completely. I mean, look at Rorschach becomes the hero of Watchmen almost. And then you look at Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, that's all about inverting the Jesus Smith. where it's not about Superman fighting for our weakness, it's about fighting for our strength as a species, our individuality, our independence.
Oh, nice. All right, Pedro, over to you.
I think he just doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. That's my opinion. It's like, I think he wants to be an objectivist, but he just doesn't know how. And for the record, I think Miller's too much of a, he's kind of a little bit of a fascist, or where he has fascist tendencies to actually even, be considered objectivist. But I don't know, he just doesn't fall into a small category and whatnot. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there probably is elements of it in it, but that's like, I don't know, me throwing in, that's like Hideaki Anno throwing in Christian symbolism in Evangelion just because it looks cool. It's not, when he's not really, a Christian at all. So that's pretty much my take on that whole thing.
All right.
Also, I tend to think...
Oh, sorry. I thought you said that was done. So I cut you off. My bad. Continue your point, please, if you have more to say.
Also, I just think Faraci's kind of full of it, but, it's
Can we, before we go into other follow-up questions, I wonder if Justin, as much more of an expert on objectivism than either of us are. I mean, I've read Fountainhead, Atlas Shrugged, and Anthem, but I really don't know, much about the practicality or... I don't know as much about practicing objectivism as you do for sure. I've just read some of the books. So I wonder, before we get too far into this, if you could just talk about what exactly is it that we're talking about when we're saying something or someone is objectivist?
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of debate about that within the objectivist community, so I'm just going to speak for myself here and how I see it. I do consider myself an objectivist. Objectivism is basically based upon the idea of rational self-interest. It's the idea of you're living life for yourself to pursue your values, and the ultimate end is your happiness. But the way people get confused is when they're talking about selfishness, they think that means being mean to other people or disregarding other people. But part of selfishness is recognizing the value in other people. For instance, in Batman vs. Superman, one of the things I love about the movie is ultimately, spoiler alert here, Superman's death is not selfless. It's selfish. Throughout the movie, one of the themes is my world. This is my world. And then finally, before he goes and goes towards his death with Doomsday, he looks at Lois and he says, "This is my world. You are my world." So he's fighting not to give his life for other people, but saying, if I have these powers and I love you, I have to fight. Otherwise, I'm not being true to myself and my values. And that's what objectivism rightly understood is. Rational self-interest.
See, I guess I'm confused about that Superman example, though, because it seemed to me that throughout the movie, he's struggling very much because he doesn't really want to have to go save people. He just wants to be able to live a comfortable life. And maybe I'm reading it just differently in that sense, but I got the sense that was a reluctant self-sacrifice at the end of the movie. And maybe I'm just wrong there. It seemed like he's just like, I guess I have to go kill myself to stop this now. All right.
But that's the resolution. You've exactly identified his conflict. That's Superman's conflict. 100% is, I want to do this. I have these powers. I see the value in the world. I want to save it. That's what he learned in Man of Steel. If I don't save the world, I'm not protecting individuality and I'm not protecting humans over Kryptonians. And when he does that, the world turns around and smacks him in the face. So why should he save the world if when he saves them, all they're going to do is tell him how bad he is? Then ultimately his realization is, I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for the goodness I see in the world.
Fair enough.
Pedro, do you have anything to chime in?
I did not even get that at all. He just comes off as sort of a freaking robot in the movie and stuff, or not even a robot, because I don't know. It's just I mean, when you say rational self-interest, I say selfish, right? I mean, that's.
Yeah, they're the same. They're the same.
It's not even self. I mean, this movie tried to attempt the whole self-examination thing, and it kind of failed. So that's how I see it. I mean, it didn't work too well. It didn't work well, and it just came off as him as kind of a sociopath, complaining that he's being victimized and all that shit, and all that, and just when he said that, I mean, that speech his mom gives him, this rubs me the wrong freaking way. It's like villain's speech right there.
What was that speech? Can you remind me?
Yes.
I'm like, something about how
I can do it.
either
Justin,
hero,
Yes,
either
Justin.
something, or don't be anything because you don't owe them a damn thing. I mean,
Right. That's
If
pretty
they-
much what it is. It's saying you never owed this world a thing, Clark. You never did. And that is, I mean, the first time I heard that in the trailer, I cried. That's as objectivist as it gets. It's daring to ask the question that as a superhero, do you owe the world? Because what do we believe with our superheroes? We believe Peter Parker. With great power comes great responsibility. The idea that because you're great, you're obligated to protect the world.
so we're gonna
Batman versus Superman dares to ask the question if you do.
How do you feel about the Bruce Wayne arc, though? Do you think that's objectivist as well?
I mean, I think you have to look at it on a broad perspective. And I think the story itself is objectivist, but Bruce Wayne represents the man who is afraid of the man of greater ability. Here's somebody his whole life who they frame it with, it starts with the death of his parents, right? The reason they start with that is he's been afraid of being powerless. And his whole life he's been the powerful man. He's been Batman. He's been stomping out the evil in the world. But then finally someone comes along who's more powerful than him, and it scares the shit out of him. And that's why he says, if there's even a 1% chance he's our enemy, we have to do something about it. Because I think that's how a lot of us feel when we're first encounter people who are better than us. I mean, when you walk into a room and someone's smarter or someone's in better shape or better looking, that can be scary because it's like, well, I might not get what I want. And Bruce Wayne is shown grappling with that. And I think that's a realistic portrayal of someone who has these issues. And I think it fits into the objectivist worldview. I mean, when you look at Peter Keating, when you look at Gail Wynand, when you look at even Ellsworth Toohey, that's a lot of their motivation. They're intimidated by Rourke. They're scared by Rourke in the Fountainhead.
That's interesting. So we're saying then that Bruce Wayne would be the weak one, I guess, in the movie, as opposed to, I think in Faraci's article, he's talking about Bruce Wayne as essentially the champion of objectivism, right, Abe? I mean,
Yeah, that seemed to be his stance on it.
Yeah, and that's actually... Go ahead.
I think you've made a better case for there being an objectivist slant to the movie than Faraci did. I think the Superman argument, I can understand exactly where that's going. Bruce Wayne, that didn't hold water for me.
Well, yeah, and that's actually something I didn't get to because I only had 60 seconds, but I actually disagree with Devin Douchebag. I won't use his name. I disagree with his use of objectivism. He even says Pa Kent is objectivist. No, Pa Kent is anti-objectivist. Pa Kent is one of these people who fears ability. He says, don't put your ability in the world. Everyone will hate you. That's what we tell people of ability in our society. Hide yourself. Nobody will like you. They will attack you. Well, then what happens? Batman does attack him. So Batman is the logical result of what Pa Kent is afraid of in Man of Steel, but neither of them are objectivists. These are just men who are afraid. That's their main motivation. Pa Kent was afraid. He wasn't objectivist. He wasn't being selfish. He was being afraid.
Oh, that makes sense. But okay, but let's bring this all back in and tie it all together. Faraci said, that there's a bent of objectivism running through Snyder's films. And Justin, you seem to confirm that the answer is he's correct. He may not get the points right, but it seems like he's not wrong.
I agree. I agree with his assessment. I disagree with his characterization of objectivism. But as I said, if you listen to my series, we do a Snyder series on my podcast where we look at each of his films. I've been tracking this since we started the Snyder series.
All right.
So, kind of basic. So you're saying that he's there is an objectivist slant, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know. So I guess I'm guessing that whole thing with Sucker Punch was basically, Zack Snyder's excuse to, show off his rape fetish or something like that. So, yeah.
A Sucker Punch is a whole other issue that I don't know if we have time for.
Ayn Rand and rape fetishes could be its own episode.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yes.
That is a good point to move on to topic 2. I want to delve into the superhero stuff even deeper.
All right.
Great segue.
All right, so I want to know. Basically, let's just boil it down to the simplest question. Can a superhero, by definition, be an objectivist? And I'm going to start with you, Justin.
Okay. All right, so the simple answer to this is yes. And this goes to more answering what Tom was asking. What is objectivism? The basic question is this. Is the essential tool that the superhero has at his disposal reason? Because objectivism comes down to the essential tool of man's survival is reason. As long as reason is his essential tool of survival, then yes, any superhero can be objectivist. You look at Man of Steel, you look at Batman versus Superman, you look at Batman, you look at Superman. All of them are still using reason. All their powers are just tools that they're using to enhance or augment their reason, just like all the tools we've invented. So yes, a superhero can always be an objectivist as long as reason is the primary of their means of survival.
All right. Pedro, we're going over to you. Go.
We already got one that would be like, I don't know, Rorschach, fucking, what's his face? Tony. Tony Stark's an objectivist. Pretty much.
Yep.
Before the Civil War debacle deal. I mean,
yes.
in Iron Man 2, that's basically, he creates the armor and whatnot. Government wants the armor. He's like, no, I'm not going to give you the goddamn armor and stuff. And he ends up giving, a speech at the end of the movie and stuff, or something like that, saying why he doesn't want to give the armor to the government and whatnot, and so forth. So, it's we already got that. I mean, we already got a superhero objectively. We just it just happens to be Iron Man and not. I don't know. It's just not again. Not Superman or whatever. I don't know.
All right, Tom, we're going over to you.
Well, I'm kind of glad that it's starting to move a little towards Captain America. Civil War has kind of been brought up because I think when I watched Civil War, I thought if there's anybody that Captain America was serving in that movie, it is entirely himself and nobody else. And he doesn't want to have to talk to anybody else. He doesn't have to think about anyone else. He just has this really, really firm idea what he wants to do. But to Justin's point, I see no reason behind any of his thoughts. He just is really, really stubborn, and he just can't even think outside of this intense binary that he probably got from being raised on World War II propaganda. And I think that you see maybe he's the weak one. I'd like to hear Justin actually talk about that, because I think this is a guy who is completely obsessed with himself, but I don't think he's thinking it through. Whereas Iron Man's thinking about other people, and I think he just, his confliction there didn't strike me as completely objectivist. But I'm open to hearing what you guys are saying. I think it's hard to make the case that a superhero is anything but selfless, but there's probably more shades of gray than I give credit for.
Boom. All right. So, Justin.
Yes.
Elaborate on that. I want to hear more.
So you want me to talk about Iron Man and Captain America here? Is that where we're going?
Let's do it. That's the topic du jour. Let's.
Okay. I agree completely with what both of you guys said, believe it or not. I'm sorry, Abe, I know you want controversy, but Pedro's 100% correct. If you look at Iron Man 1 and 2, and 3 a little bit, Tony Stark is as close to an objectivist as you can get. I mean, we would have to have a debate because he's on the Libertarian Objectivist line, but he's pursuing his values, and he's not being controlled by emotions. But when we evolve into Civil War, what's talking identified is all the characters in Civil War are simply acting off of emotions. Captain America is not thinking about the consequences of what he's going to do based upon his values. All he's thinking is, I love Bucky, I'm going to protect Bucky. He's not also thinking, well, Bucky fucking killed Tony Stark's parents. Oh man, maybe that'll draw a wedge in the Avengers and we'll all have this giant war. He's not thinking about any of those consequences. In the same sense, they've turned Tony Stark into an emotionalist where all he's doing is, well, I feel guilt because people died because, even though he is objectivist adjacent, as I call it, he does feel things and he does care about Pepper. He cares about the world. That's why he protects it. He values it. But they've made him just purely guilt-ridden, and that's why he's doing what he's doing. So nobody's acting off of reason, and Captain America definitely isn't. And I would say Captain America is being narcissistic. And this is a line that I think we need to draw in our society between selfishness and narcissism. We equate those two when they're not. They're not the same thing.
Pedro's raised his hand.
Oh, yeah, good.
I disagree with that. Being a narcissist would be like, what? Just giving a shit about yourself? I mean, he gave a shit about Bucky. There's a reason why he did that. And also, by the way, it's not, he wasn't stubborn. I mean, yeah, he is stubborn, but, that's like anyone, that's like basically, a human flaw. And it's just, he's not going against them because, he thinks he's right. He's going against them because they know they're going to kill his friend. And I don't know, if I was in the same position, I'd be acting the same way. And but yeah, I don't know. If he were a narcissist, he wouldn't admit that he was wrong, which he does sort of admit that he fucked up at the end of the movie, which he did.
Wait, Captain America admits he was wrong about something?
No, he doesn't.
Man, remind me of that one.
Yeah, I don't recall that.
Like at the end of the movie, he admitted that, hey, he might have fucked up by not telling Iron Man that, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen Civil War, that, you already mentioned that Bucky, being brainwashed killed Tony Stark's parents.
Okay, that's right.
So.
But then they try to beat him to death. I mean,
I might be wrong, but bam, 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 bam. Like, okay.
He didn't beat him to death. He's in a walking he's in a freaking power armor, which is like freaking, they're not gonna hold back their punches with that, because it's like.
They weren't just like having a fun boxing match, though. There was some malice there.
Him.
Yeah.
He was working on disabling him with his shield, which he actually did.
But here's the question, right? Why is he trying to protect Bucky? Does he ever give a reason? Does he ever say this is what makes Bucky good? He just says no. Bucky was
anybody.
Right. Bucky was with me when I was a kid, therefore I love him. That's not valuing another human being. If somebody comes up to me, if a girl says I want to date you because I like you, and I say why do you like me? And she says, I don't know, I like you. I go, get out of here. You can't say why you like me. What's good about me? If you're just saying...
They're battle buddies. And they're battle buddies, which means, they went through the war together and stuff. And he...
Okay.
They were trying to initiate Stark into their battle buddy routine, and it just didn't go well.
He finds out that when he finds out that he's alive this whole freaking time, he's like, yeah, I gotta freaking save him, because, guy freaking saved his life back in the war. Vice versa.
Doesn't Bucky want to get turned in, though, basically? I mean, Bucky doesn't want to be a renegade forever, but, Captain America's like, well,
they were trying to come after him with orders to shoot to kill. So naturally,
did Captain America ever really say, "Hey, let's just give him a trial instead"? Couldn't he have gone to the authorities and tried to make that case instead of just going renegade forever or something?
He tried to, but they didn't listen. So they're clearly, freaking kill him.
Yeah, we're getting sidetracked. Sorry.
Go ahead, Justin.
No.
I was going to say, I agree with Tom. Couldn't he just go to Iron Man and say, let's bring him in together as long as you promise me he'll be safe? Because if you're going to recognize reality, right, the tenets of objectivism and using reason is recognizing reality. Well, reality is it looks like he fucking killed Black Panther's president dad. It looks like he assassinated all these people. Why don't we actually lock him in a prison, see what's going on, and once we figure out he's brainwashed, then we can give him a presidential pardon. Rather than just, oh, you want to bring him in? We're going to kick the shit out of you. Like, that's you only get there by emotionalism.
If I can change the pace...
Bring him in, and then it turns out that he wasn't really behind the attacks. So, there you go.
Well, I don't know if we want to go down this rabbit hole forever, but I wanted to ask one quick question, which was on this topic of if a superhero can be objectivist, I guess on purely Randian terms, would we say John Galt would be sort of her superhero? Or, I mean, if we can, it's probably a bad way of phrasing it, but is he the shining example of objectivism in her book?
Yes, he's considered her ideal man.
Yes, okay. But, I mean, the contrast, I guess, I wanted to talk about there was this idea of sort of retreating away from the world to essentially be able to restart it as something different, something that he likes more. Mm-hmm. That seems very different to me than this idea of the ideal man being somebody who could... I guess we're not saying superheroes are the ideal man. Maybe that's where the complication is. But devoting yourself to helping the world even though you know it's wrong, as opposed to this kind of, let's try to restart, seem like they're very different goals, I guess, at the end of the day. And I don't know if it's just that reasoning can be different in the two cases, or is there a significant distinction there?
Well, you've raised an interesting point, and I think Rand herself might have been critical of Superman in exactly the way you just said. She might have challenged him to go Galt because of the way the world was treating him. But you have to look at the fundamental world. These are fictional worlds, so they're created differently. And Galt's context that he's in, Rand intentionally created a world that was so irrational it's unsavable. So the only way to rationally approach the world is to say, oh, this world is anti-life, therefore I have to withdraw myself. Whereas in Batman versus Superman, Superman realized the world wasn't unredeemable, it wasn't unsavable, there was enough value in it. Therefore, he saved it. He fought to protect his values. Now, as you just said, and as you wisely point out, Rand might have disagreed and said the way Snyder constructed that world was irredeemable. And maybe that's a weakness in the film, and maybe that's a weakness in Snyder's filmmaking in general, is that he's not showing the world as redeemable or not. That's an interesting debate.
Well, I guess
Quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
Wasn't her like, I mean, wasn't her ideal man like, didn't she like say that the one guy that fit her ideal man kind of deal was William Edward Hickman? You know, the guy who, I don't know, chopped up this kid. You know, he was like a serial killer and stuff. And she actually goes on to talk about how she says that he was like basically her ideal man and stuff, and how she was gonna end up writing a book about where the hero would be modeled on him. So, you know, I don't know, like, I mean, that's
Curious to hear this story. This is interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, this was a diary entry she wrote, a journal entry she wrote while doing pre-writing, and there were elements of that man she liked. There were elements of Hickman she liked, and what she specifically liked about him was that he didn't value what the world thought of him. He didn't value, other people's opinions. He just did what he thought was right. Now, clearly, based upon the fact that she wasn't out there killing people and chopping people up, I think you can say she didn't value killing people and chopping people up. Though you're right, we would never know that. But again, I can only assess values and ideas and thoughts for myself. And if that was what Rand believed, I disagree with that. But that is what she said in her journal entry that she liked about Hickman. But if she did like the fact that he was a serial killer, yeah, she was 100% wrong about that. But that doesn't, to me, violate everything else.
This is actually where I was going with what you were saying before. Is I think where we kind of get stuck is just with the subjectivity of reason, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're stuck on all of these things, where anybody can really be an objectivist. But I guess when you say objective, you're stuck with this sort of idea that there's like a very clear way to go with everything. But I mean, even just this idea that the world can be redeemable or it isn't redeemable. Those are things that I think you can use reason to answer either way, but it's hard to say that one is, objective. So I don't really have a question. I was just saying it's an interesting thing that seems to be coming up here as you sort of expand on how objectivism can work in the outside of the stereotypical sense.
And you're 100% correct. And again, this is a problem in a debate I get into with a lot of objectivists. And the important thing to remember is it's your assessment. And when we're talking about fictional worlds versus the real world, it's undebatable that Rand made the world of Atlas Shrugged to be irredeemable, because that is a world that she created that exists. It's not reality. But each of us has to decide for ourselves what reality is like and how we want to deal with it. Only we can assess it because it's for ourselves, and our minds are our tool individually.
All right. Well, I'm going to decide that this topic is unsavable now, and we're going to move on to topic 3.
Yeah, the best.
All right, topic 3. I think this all kind of ties in together with Devin's article in the beginning too. While Vanity Fair decried Captain America being a straight man, Salon took a different approach. They said they were upset with Cap that he's now a libertarian douche. And I've seen this before with video games. I want to know, are nitpicking articles like this a sign that geek culture and problematic politics are more important to people than the actual history? I should say more important to journalists than his or her actual history. And I'm going to start with you, Pedro.
Quick question. What do you mean by, video games?
What do I mean by video games?
Yeah. Why bring that up?
Okay. I want to talk about why there are not enough transsexuals or minorities in a game that depicts ancient Finland.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. Just curious.
You're blowing through your time.
He might be
He's not worried.
He's a libertarian, maybe. But I just don't think he's a douche. So everyone else here, but I don't know. They might be a little bit off on that part that he's a douche. I mean, again, he's like, I just don't think I mean, you got to look at it from his perspective. Freaking everyone who's he's trying to work for has ended up freaking trying to Avengers. They tried to drop a nuke on New York, and
right. Very interesting use of your time. I'm going to move on to Tom.
Well, that's a complicated question to have to answer in a minute, even when we are just talking about it for that minute.
Yes.
But I think when it comes down to it, in terms of writing about these things, when we're just writing on the internet, it makes a lot more sense that you want to pick an angle that's going to draw hits, that's going to seem controversial. I think that the conversation, it's a lot easier to pick a controversy than it is to actually talk very much about what, like the authorial intention, or specifically about what you can actually find in there. So in terms of talking about whether if there's enough gay or transsexual characters, or whether someone is straight, I think that there's probably a conversation there. I don't know if that's the best use of directly focusing on a specific piece of art, but maybe I think there's some value in sort of the conversation of those sort of cultural trends. So I think essentially you kind of just have two different topics, and I wish I had a more controversial stance to go in line with my answer here in general, because it is just I'm just like, well, shades of gray.
All right, Justin, is geek culture under attack?
It's not just geek culture that's under attack. It's culture that's under attack. When you look at Devin Douchebag, this gets to what you're driving at when Pedro asks, why are we talking about video games? Devin tweeted once that Gamergate was equivalent to ISIS, because we already saw this happen with Gamergate. They tried to say it's just white males sitting by themselves who are driving gamer culture. We see this going on with movies now, with the way they're attacking Zack Snyder, with the way they attacked Interstellar and Christopher Nolan, and we see this with the social justice movement, where everything is about, the bathroom controversy now, where we're not worried about where the president stands on economics, where these candidates stand on economics. We're worried about North Carolina bathrooms and whether transgender people and whether Caitlyn Jenner can detransition or not. That's what we're worried about.
All right. So, is it culture under attack, Tom? Is that how you read it?
No, I don't think it's culture under attack. It's the same points or shades of gray thing I keep going back to, where I think that, you'll see that to some extent. I don't think it's this terrible thing. I think there are cultural trends, and I don't think it's bad to say that some of them are good or some of them are bad, or to be worried about them. I think it can, like what Justin's saying, I agree that it can be too distracting at times, when maybe there are things that you should focus on, whether we're talking about, like the president stuff, or we're talking maybe about even just in a game or something. There may be something that's more important to talk about than how many transsexual characters are in the game, or like whatever it is. So there's some degree of cultural attack, but I think the discussion can be good. It's more about how much we want to focus on one thing versus another.
Pedro, I know you want to jump in here now.
Yeah, at what point I wouldn't say ISIS, but I'd say it's a fucking hate movement, because they've done nothing but, harass other folks for, having critiques and whatnot. Who cares if it's like someone criticizing like this game with that has lack of female representation? It's. At the end of the day,
can we define Gamergate for less video game savvy people like me? I know vaguely what it is, but I'd like something more clear.
There really isn't a definition. It started as a movement of people that felt like developers and journalists were colluding with each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Which was basically BS. Never really was the case there. But now it freaking picked up steam, and we got, freaking hate movement and whatnot. And, you say there's no hate movement, but it's mostly made up of, people, mostly made up of trolls and other folks who like to harass other people and stuff, and so forth. So, it's not so much geek culture is under attack so much as geek culture is claiming to be under attack while actually attacking other people. So,
well, I do find that interesting. I think, from my perspective, geeks are overprotective of things because they see when outsiders come in, all they do is trivialize their passion.
Yeah, I feel wrong if someone were to look at, say, I don't know, like at this video game that I really love and say, oh, there's something wrong with this game and so forth. But you know what? I can just simply disagree with them and move on with my life and still keep on loving that game.
Absolutely. But
but a lot of folks, and I do mean a lot of folks, not only do they take it personally, they take it to lengths that I would say breaks a few laws. So, there's that. So while I wouldn't equate Gamergate with ISIS, I would equate it with, I don't know, maybe the KKK.
Okay. Justin, jump in here.
Wow. Okay. So here's the issue. I agree with what you said about just liking what you like and disregarding. But this goes back to what Tom was saying: is these people who are against Gamergate, these people like Devin Douchebag, they're not only concerned about liking what they like, they're concerned about telling other people what they should like. When you talk about feminist frequency, I can't remember her. I can't pronounce her name right.
Sarkeesian.
Sarkeesian, right. She's more concerned about telling other people what they should and shouldn't do. She wants to enforce what people should have in their art. And that's when culture becomes under attack. Great, all day if you want to scream from the rooftops, there's not enough female representation. But do not tell other people what they should and shouldn't put in their art. Zack Snyder has every right to put what he wants in his film. The Russo brothers can put what they want in their film. I can say it's emotionalism, and they can say we disagree, and I can say good. But I would never tell them, don't put what you want in your film, and that's the difference.
Personally, I think, and I've seen a couple of her vids, and I don't see her saying that. I see that she expresses dismay at some of this stuff, and she expresses a dismay at some sort of tropes and whatnot. But I don't think she wants to say like it's not that. It's just she's not oppressing anyone's right to like put anything in it. I mean, you can go ahead and put that in there. We're gonna just, but everyone else is just gonna call you out on it, and because that's what critics do. I mean, that's what we're supposed to, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to critique something. So if they have a problem with that, well, shoot, that's a prerogative. And for the record, Devin Faraci is a hypocrite to begin with. That's one thing we can agree on. I don't like Devin Faraci either. So yeah, he's a hypocrite.
Right, and using him as the example, that's where I'm going to disagree with you. Where if you look at him, his articles and his news reporting, his rumors, go beyond talking about what I like and what I don't like and what's good and what's bad. He's actually trying to create a cultural perception to get Zack Snyder fired, to make Ben Affleck the producer and director of these movies. And that's where you're crossing a line. You are a critic. You're a journalist. Your job is not to make the news. It's to report the news. And that's where I disagree. And to me, that is evidence of them looking to enforce and looking to force people to do certain things beyond just expressing their own opinion. And that's just where I'm going to have to disagree with you.
Yeah, I feel like most critics out there come
really
with this.
use them as an example.
Hold on, I want to hear what Tom has to say. Tom?
Oh, sorry.
Well, I think when you're a critic, you kind of come with this sense where you hopefully have a very clearly defined idea of what it is you want to see in some of these cultural things you want to read or play or whatever it is. And it'd be sweet if everybody had the same opinion and it was all able to conform to sort of these standards that you have. I think that's I don't really mind that in a critic, but I think that you're right when it's this thing where it turns into this sort of us versus them, where you are actively like evil in culture. When we turn it into that binary again, I can see how it's problematic. But I think when you are just Faraci would be part of, there is there are people in the culture who agree with him, and he sort of represents some of that. And I don't think that's a problem to continue to represent that, even if that representation has sort of this call to do something. Faraci's never going to get Zack Snyder fired. Warner Brothers doesn't really care that much. But I think he can say it, just like we can say whatever we want on this show. So, I mean, I don't really have a problem with him calling him out and saying it, but I think that you're right in terms of this idea where if it becomes it turns into like a moral stance that you are wrong or you have to do these things, and it becomes this, expectation in that way, it can be problematic. But, a critic saying it, I don't know. I don't think that's that threatening at the end of the day.
Tom, I agree with you 1,000% what you just said. And here's the difference between me and you. I am standing here as the opposing view to him. And I'm saying there are other people out there who disagree with you and like what Zack Snyder's doing. And you know what? We don't think 890 million is a failure, and that's up to WB to decide if that's a failure or not. Because if I'm here saying it, it can never get to the level of these people becoming influencers of government and then government enforcing these laws. That's where it becomes dangerous. You're 100% correct. Right now, it's not dangerous, but that's why it's important for me to put Zack Snyder on my t-shirt and come on here and say these things, because I'm showing other people exist who love these movies.
Yeah.
Pedro's not convinced. Look at that face.
No, he's not at all. Well, I don't think we're going to resolve this topic anytime soon, but it was fun. It was fun doing it.
Is there a bonus question?
No, I think that's it. We're running long as it is, so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this up.
All right.
So, Justin, I hear rumors that you're a podcaster. Where would somebody who's not familiar with you find you?
If you want to check out my podcast, if you enjoyed the way I was here, you'll get even more of that, even more over the top. It'll be, I'm being nice today. I'm being nice. So check out themidside.com/podcast. You'll find all my stuff there. You can search for Welcome to the Midside. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all that good stuff. That's where we reveal stuff such as Zack Snyder once said that, quote, I have a sort of Ayn Rand aesthetic. We go that deep into his interviews. We go that deep into interviews with filmmakers, political people, thinkers, all that stuff.
All right, cool. Tom.
Yeah.
I saw you guys write an outline last Monday. What are you going to talk about Monday on vegetable lasagna?
Don't throw me into that outline. Chris showed up with one. He was ready to go. Next week, Walden Pond he said he got a scoop because he slept through the show last week. So he's going to compensate for it. And he's got a super special scoop, but he's not going to tell me what it is. So
Excellent.
Know that.
That's vegetable lasagna right here on this channel Monday night at
8 p.m.
Do I actually say it? 8 p.m.?
8
We're
p.m.
locking you in. All right.
That's right. We got titles and the time now.
All right. Next Thursday, Woody Allen. Yeah.
Love and Death and Sleeper.
Can't wait for that. Ronan, are you working on anything right now? You writing? Are you working on anything right now? Are you doing any writing?
I got writer's block, so I'm trying to work with that. So
Okay.
you can find me at the Supernauts and stuff under my name. So,
There we go.
oh.
All right. And next Tuesday, Dan and I are going to be talking Highlander with an interview with Russell Mulcahy. So I think that's going to be fun. If you enjoyed this remotely or you disliked it, let us know in the comments below. We'd appreciate a like if you can, but a dislike says at least you watched it. And of course, we always appreciate subs. We are barreling ever closer to that vegetable lasagna mark of 200 subs.
You're just going to keep bringing that up at the end of every show, aren't you?
I am. The special surprise episode when we hit 200 subs.
Cold-blooded, man.
Some surprises.
There we go.
Cold-blooded.
Thank you guys so much for joining. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I will see you in 2 weeks with another debate show, MaSter Debaters show.
All right.
All right. Good night, everybody.